It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Oklahoma Wesleyan's head coach for the women's basketball, Heidi Messer. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it came from a love of the game early on. I was a avid fan of the game of basketball. Growing up, fell in love watching Michael Jordan play, and for the longest time, thought I was going to be the first woman in the WNBA or in the NBA. There was no WNBA at that time, but just wanted to be a part of the game as long as I could. And as I got older and just kind of to really develop that interest for leadership and influencing, particularly throughout college. Realized like I wanted to be a coach and I wanted to have an impact on young women like I had with coaches. I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to impact and influence them through this platform of basketball. So
What was that experience like for you to go to Grace College and get to compete collegiately?
oh, it was great. I played 2 years of junior college ball at Sinclair Community College in Ohio. So I got the JUCO experience, which anybody who's been around the basketball world or the JUCO world knows is a different but fun experience. And then going on to Grace College, it was a really wonderful opportunity. Had a great community around me, great coaching staff around me, and just to be able to play there and represent the school, I think for any college player, once you make that decision to go someplace and continue your career, it's exciting to be able to put on that jersey. At least that's something we talk about here, like take pride in it. And I did took pride in my years as a Lancer and getting to play up there. So it was good.
While at Grace, what were some of your playing accomplishments?
I would say probably shooting percentage, 3-point shooting percentage was one that I felt most prideful in. I was a 40 plus percent shooter, 42%. I probably didn't shoot enough. And that's kind of something I look back on now from the coach's seat. Like, yeah, you should have done more. And then just my ability to assist and create for the team. I averaged 8 assists on the year. And so it was good to know that I could create, but then also be relied on as a shooter and a leader amongst my team. I was never the kind that really dove too much into having to have certain stats, but I always wanted to be a reliable leader for my team. And I think being able to know that I influenced statistically, but also with my presence on the floor, it's something that I get to look back on and feel really good about.
What was that transition like for you from going from being a player to a grad assistant at Georgetown?
Tough. Once you take off the shoes and you actually don't get to be on the court during game time, I think that's always a hard transition for any player to exit and slide down the seat and be in, a pair of heels instead of a pair of basketball shoes. But it was also an honor and a privilege too, because being that closely connected to the playing experience, I knew and I remembered what certain things felt like. I knew what it felt like to be on the floor. I knew what those moments were when you start 0 for 3 in a game and you got to flip a switch mentally and not get into your emotions of it. So to be able to connect with players on that vantage point, just because of the timing of it was, like I said, an honor and a privilege. And to be able to grow my coaching side mentally with Coach Johnson and Coach McCloskey that were there, it just felt really good about the opportunities that were in front of me.
What was that experience like getting to start your coaching career there and becoming also the assistant coach there?
Well, I became an assistant after 2 years at Georgetown. Got great preparation under both coaches that I worked with there. both saw them in assistant roles and head coaching roles. For me, I was a sponge as a GA. I wanted to touch as much as I could and get into as many things, but I just wanted to observe and learn how to be a great assistant coach. At that time, I was like, if I'm a head coach one day, cool, great, that's fine. But I just want to be a great assistant. There's a lot of great assistant coaches that we can model our careers after. And sometimes they don't always get the limelight, but I think even as you watch the landscape of college and NBA basketball, there's a lot of assistant coaches that you're hearing about more often. And so that was something that I wanted to develop in those 2 years. I think I did. And then when I went on to Manchester University for my first job, you get hit with curveballs because some tasks are new. Every head coach is different, so they want things done differently. And so it was a great opportunity. I felt like I had a good underlying preparation. And now it was like, okay, rubber meets the road, and I'm the one doing the work in terms of preparation, planning, getting stuff ready. And so it was an exciting time. I mean, I knew I was doing exactly what I wanted to, and I had a great head coach to learn from at Manchester as well with Coach Zurich. And he prepped me to be a really great assistant, whether it was after my first year for him to be better my next 2 years, or he knew that when I moved on, he knew he wanted me to be the most prepared person possible, and he did a great job helping me get there.
During your time at Manchester, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as an assistant coach?
I think as an assistant, I think it was a big accomplishment for me, one, personally, just to grow and expand my level of being a really good assistant coach and being able to work with a new and different head coach who we had different personalities. So there was a learning curve initially in just our approach of things. But man, it really diversified my level of preparation and planning. And he gave me a lot of freedom in player development and just to be able to work with players on the court and watch them grow their game. Watching freshmen come in as walk-ons and then become senior starters, by their junior, senior year. For me, that was just, I took a lot of pride in our time on the court together, developing them as players, both physically and mentally, and just seeing their growth throughout the time. So, as an assistant, you don't get the statistical win-loss category like a head coach does, right? So you really have to take pride in how are you making the program great? It's not, your name's not on it, but you are laying the foundation a lot of days to help that head coach look great. And that was kind of always an approach I took. I really wanted to make any program I was in better than how I found it in one way or another. Make the players better, make, this system of organization better, something. I just wanted to leave my footprint. I felt like I was able to do that there in a couple different ways.
Of course, going to Northeastern State, what was that experience like becoming the assistant coach, but also the strength and conditioning coach while there?
Yeah, so I had actually, during my time at Montevallo in Alabama, in between Manchester and NSU, I'd gotten my certification. I'd actually done strength and conditioning really since I was a GA in college. I did some personal training on the side while I was a GA, and then got my certification while I was at Montevallo to be a certified strength and conditioning coach, which at the time was really just a way to expand my resume. At that time, Division II was going through and saying like, okay, you officially need to have somebody on staff that is certified. And so it was convenient timing because I had just gotten certified and then that came in. So I knew it was going to be something that would kind of open some doors for me. And it did. That was a really high priority for the head coach that I worked with at NSU. She was super drawn to the fact that I had experience in that and wanted me to be able to be in charge of that, just to be able to stay connected with our players. And for me, it was a place where in the weight room, I got to be quote unquote the head coach voice, right? Like I really got to be the voice they heard in there. And then when we went to the court, I was back to the assistant coach. So I was the voice pulling them to the side, not always as loud as the head coach, but it let me find my voice in a space and kind of develop so that I would be ready for this time as a head coach even more.
What was your experience like going to coach for the U.S. sports team?
Oh, it was awesome. When I got asked to go join Coach Heather Davis on that, she was actually a friend of mine beforehand. And when we got a chance to go and do that together, it was a privilege, it's, I've got Michael Jordan's USA jersey back here, and I'm a big Olympics fan whenever it comes around. And so for me, just to be able to be a part of some organization that represented our country in a different country, again, on this great platform that we get to call the game of basketball, it was a total privilege just to go and experience their culture, to play games on their court and in their environments, experience their officiating, things like that. It was a fun trip and a great way to connect with players from different schools. It was all Division II players, NCAA Division II players. So it was fun to be able to connect with some young women that I coached against in conference play, but just to get to know them on a different level while we all got a chance to do something really unique in representing our country was a lot of fun.
Of course, during your time coaching at Brazil, what was that like, and how did it help you into taking your next role as a head coach at Oklahoma Wesleyan?
I think in the world of coaching, we live in in the world of athletics, let me say that you have to be adaptable. And in coaching, you have to be really adaptable. You got people who are stuck in their ways, and good for them. But I think our calling, our career requires some flexibility and adaptability. And I think when you go and coach in a different country, different culture, different environment in general than what you're used to, you find ways to adapt. And you only get to coach players for 10 days. How are you going to connect? How are you going to coach them? How are you going to implement some kind of offense or inbounds that they can learn quickly and execute? You got to be able to connect with them and have that opportunity to um, get them to want to be coached by you in a short amount of time. So again, I go back to that word, just connection and adaptability. You got to be able to find that and grow that. And that's in any coaching scenario, but particularly in a unique experience like that.
What was that experience like for you to come to Oklahoma Wesleyan and first become the assistant coach before taking over as head coach?
I actually was not an assistant coach here. I came here, this is my first head coaching job. I got called over here for an interview last summer and was offered the head coaching position after going through the interview process. And for me, this school draws a lot of comparisons to Grace College, where I attended as a student athlete. And so I think it was an exciting time for me, one, to make that shift into being a head coach after having been ready the last couple years. It was exciting to finally take that step, but also it was exciting for me just to come into an environment that I felt familiar with in terms of community is important, face important, really developing the young women that come into our program is important. And that's ultimately one of my personal missions, is to impact and influence the women that come into my program to walk out this door in 4 years stronger, more confident, and more empowered than when they came in. And I really felt like this was a place I could do that. And what better way to do it than through basketball? So I was pretty excited about it.
What are some of the things that you've taken along your way as assistant coach throughout your coaching journey to help you to make that jump to become head coach?
Oh gosh, I don't actually have enough time to share all my journal entries, but I've actually kept a journal since being a player. Just the I called it my like to-dos and not to-dos and things I wanted to think about when I became a head coach. And I started it, like I said, when I was a player, and every job I was at, man, you got to do this. This is really important. And from the assistant coach's seat, I could do that with some freedom in my own personal time, because it was like, okay, well, I'm always going to support this head coach and how we do it. But I think they're missing the boat here. And I'm going to write that down because I don't want to miss that when I'm a head coach. Or, oh, you know what? They really emphasize academics and 100% graduation rate. And I really love that. I want to make sure I incorporate that when I become a head coach. So for me, I was just really mindful through the process. I was grateful for every experience I had in 10 years, 11 years of being an assistant and a GA. I was with 5 different head coaches. And so I had a lot of opportunities to learn from different coaching styles, different personalities, different leadership styles, and program dynamics. And for me, I'm grateful that God gave me the foresight to take note along the way, so that when this time came, I felt like, okay, I know what my core values are. I know what I want to implement. And it just kind of helped ease that process into becoming a head coach, because I think I had some clarity on some of those things.
How was that feeling like for you the first time you got to step onto the Oklahoma Wesleyan's court and get to lead the program?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it's kind of like it was a small moment of like, okay, you're finally doing what you've been waiting to do for a long time. And every game day is an exciting day. Whether you're head, assistant, player, GA, manager, everybody loves a game day. But I think, like with anything, when you walk into a new chapter of your journey and one that you've particularly worked really hard to get to, it's an exciting and humbling moment. I was very grateful for the opportunity just to be in that role and to have that moment. And so it was an exciting time to be here and be with our team, and my family was able to be in town, and coaching mentor of mine. And so it was just a really gratitude filled moment.
Of course, when you got that first career win as a head coach, what was that feeling like getting that first career win?
I don't suck at this. It's kind of one of those like, we got it. We got one win there. So, winning's fun. It's why we compete. Yeah, honestly, it's not the essence of everything we do. It's not our ultimate focus, but if you're coaching, you're a competitor and you want to win. And to be able to help lead my team into a win, and particularly the first win that we got was a come from behind win, where I truly saw my team have to fight in the second half and buckle down defensively and make some things happen offensively. Seeing that toughness and things we had talked about in our preparation and preseason show up, it was an exciting moment, because like I said, those are things you think about from the assistant's chair leading up to that in years prior. But then as a head coach, to kind of see it come to fruition and see like, okay, here it is, it's unfolding in front of us, and we're seeing some fruits of the labor. It was exciting.
How has the process been like as a head coach, getting to build that team around you and building the coaching staff and the players around you?
Well, I think first of all, it's not around me. It's got to be around a collective mission that we all want to go after together. Of course, I'm going to recruit kind of based on the style of play that I want and the energy and the kind of um, character qualities that I want in the program. But it's about them. It's about their experience as college athletes. It's about them growing and developing. And I'm just the guide for that. I want to influence them as much as I can in that process. But if I make it about me, it's probably not going to go that well. Of course, I've got my own personal career goals. And so, like I said, my style and my influence is a part of it, but it's really building it around them. At the end of the day, if I want to run certain things offensively and it doesn't fit them, they're the bodies on the floor running it. So, again, back to that adaptability. I got to be ready to make sure that what we are doing fits who's in my program, and that we're in alignment with my core values and the things we want to strive for. But it's got to be about the players. They're the ones ultimately on the floor making the plays and getting the buckets when you need it. So they're the representation.
What are some of the things that you've been able to accomplish this far as head coach?
I think particularly, I mean, it's only obviously been 1 year, but we've grown the program in numbers. I'm excited to see our team coming in this year. We've got a great group of returners. Didn't lose any returners from our varsity squad, so that feels really good. Had a couple who chose to stay and play out their 5th year, so we're really looking forward to seeing them. But I think just watching the development of what was an experience, like game minutes wise, it was a young team when I got here. And last year, I think they really embraced the challenges and everything I put in front of them to grow and develop, and to see them come back along with the addition of the players we're bringing in our recruiting class. We've grown the program that way. So I'm excited about that. And then academically, we've improved. We had a 2.9 team GPA when I got here, and we're up to a 3.1, 3.2, sorry, not quite where I want it. But, I think we're creating a desire for excellence in everything we do. And that's a word we use a lot. Like, hey, look, you aren't going to be perfect, but strive for excellence. Come on, dig in. Here we go. How can we take that next step to move the needle forward? And I think we're seeing it move forward in some of those smaller ways. So I'm excited to see what this year holds. And maybe I'll have a more detailed answer for that next year.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for the Oklahoma Wesleyan's women's basketball program?
Sorry, what was that again?
Can you talk about the culture that you've started to build?
Yeah, I think culture is a buzzword for our industry. I think culture, I want to create an environment and an experience for them. Um, Obviously culture gets reflected down the road, but I don't think you know what kind of culture is really in place until the players start doing it when I'm not in the room. That's when a culture shows up to me. If I could choose to say, what am I building? I hope it's a culture that strives for excellence and accountability. I referenced the excellence earlier. You know, our core values are excellence, accountability, gratitude, love, energy, and service. And for me, I want to see those things reflected whether Coach Messer is in the room or not. And I think, you know, some of that is the hard work and just being disciplined in our efforts on and off the court. But those are the kind of things I'm trying to create in our environment. And, you know, I do pray that it reflects back outside these walls. And when it does, you know, then I'll know that we truly do have a culture in place. But those are kind of some of the bricks that I'm trying to lay for them right now and guide them in.
Who are some of the teams that you face in your conference each week?
So we play Sterling, Tabor, Kansas Wesleyan. Evangel just joined our conference this year. York up in Nebraska, Friends University, Ottawa, Southwestern. We've got a bunch of them that we'll see throughout the season. You know, basketball's a long sport. We'll start October 27th is our first non-conference game, and then we'll go to the end of February, early March with tournament play. So you know, we'll see a little bit of everybody in the KCAC, once, twice with a lot of them, and then a few non-conference games, which we're looking forward to.
What is that home game atmosphere like at Oklahoma Wesleyan?
You know, it's good. I would like to see some more student involvement, if I'm being honest, and that's something that again I have to get out and help create for us. I think that's something new here. Got to get women's basketball buzzing a little bit with some wins and some energy. But I think in terms of our community, it's been really great. I was really excited to see the kind of community support that we got last year. Of course, it's a bunch of basketball lovers in Bartlesville, so that was fun for me because they love to talk about it and want to know the team and the girls. And you know, there's just a really great collection that you know you're going to see at every home game, and that always means a lot because loyalty and support and consistency in that is tough to get these days. And so for me, it was really meaningful to see that and be welcomed to Oklahoma Wesleyan by that.
What is that like, obviously playing Friends at home versus going, let's say, to Friends University and playing them away?
I mean, you know, everybody loves a home court advantage. So I think it's great. It's better to be at home than away. The nice thing about a Friends in particular is it's one of our shorter road trips, and it deals with a lot fewer Kansas back roads. So of all the schools, I think that one's actually okay, home and away. But some of the road teams in Kansas, you know, it's tough to get off any kind of bus and loosen up and be ready to play a game in 2 hours. It's tough. You got to have a whole different set of preparation tools for being on the road. And you have to have a real mental fortitude that keeps you locked in and focused, home or away. It doesn't matter. You just got to be ready to go put out your best effort and go for excellence every time you step out there.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate basketball?
It's different for everybody. That's something we do a Q&A at our elite camp when we host them. And we do a parent Q&A, and that's the first thing I tell parents is the recruitment process is different for everybody. For us, you know, we get conversations going with our future prospective student athletes through AAU, through film that we get in our email, through Twitter direct messages, or when they come to our elite camps. That's a big recruiting tool for us because we get to see them in our gym and we get to coach them and interact with them and really kind of get a vibe for how they operate in those scenarios. So for us, that's a lot of fun. But you know, the recruitment process is long in a lot of cases because I always tell them you need to recruit us as much as we're recruiting you and know that this is truly a fit. You know, I think a lot of times there's a lot of hype and attention around, oh, who's recruiting you? Who are you getting recruited by? That's what everybody wants to talk about. But I think a major conversation piece is like, well, who are you recruiting? Of those people that are recruiting you, how are you recruiting them? You need to know it's a fit. Getting into the portal is not actually that fun, especially after just 1 year of college basketball. Go someplace that you've recruited and knows a good fit for you so you can skip having to do this process again. And I share that with our recruits all the time. Like, hey, you got to make sure this place, this university, our standards and values here as a university and a program fit you and your style and who you want to become as a player and a person, not just what we want out of you as a player and a person. It's got to be a two-way street in that process.
As a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes when out on the road recruiting them?
Obviously, can they play basketball? That's always the first thing we're looking at. Like that skill piece is what draws us in. But as soon as I establish that, I want to know what kind of person they are. I want to know if they're going to be a great person to be around. You know, I'm a relational coach. So I want to know that I can have a relationship with them, that they're going to be a good communicator and a good person of character and not be dramatic and exhausting drains to the program. I don't want to bring drains into my program. So I try to be pretty thorough in getting to know them, learning about their families and where they come from, talking to their coaches, finding out what kind of person they are. And then obviously academics. You know, if you're going to be a student athlete in college, you need to be able to take care of business in the classroom. Ultimately, you are preparing yourself for a future for greater things beyond basketball. So I think, you know, all those components come into it. The person, the student, and the athlete all kind of come together in this trifecta piece that makes up a great student athlete and a great member of our program.
What does the official visit look like at Oklahoma Wesleyan for those prospective student athletes?
We generally invite them on campus. We'll put them on a campus tour. We like to show them, you know, it's like showing off your house. Like, oh, here's what we have. We want you to see our facilities and get to experience our staff. We spend a lot of time involved in that visit. We'll occasionally use our admissions office for the campus tours, just so they get to meet somebody else on campus and experience somebody else on campus. One thing here, we're big on the community of this campus. Oklahoma Wesleyan's a smaller university, so knowing that you have people around you on this campus outside of our staff that will care for you and want to see you succeed, I think is really important. I think it's a big draw for them. So as much as we can, we want to kind of connect them with either a professor or somebody in admissions throughout that day. But we'll bring them in, we'll do a little photo shoot, we'll get them to meet the team. If we can do lunch with the team, we'll try to do that. And then either if depending on time of the year, you know, if they can participate with us, great. If not, I like them to see a practice or a game just so they can get a sense of who is Coach Messer and do I want to play for her? You know, I think that's important for them to witness, not just in conversations, but in the heat of the moment, on court. What does it look like when I get irritated because I feel like our effort isn't where it needs to be? Well, what does it look like when we're getting buckets and I get really excited and hyped up for my team? I want them to see both and know, like, I'm as real as it comes. And I like to be very transparent in that process so they don't feel like they're getting, you know, duped in the process of recruiting. So,
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that first uniform for Oklahoma Wesleyan?
you know, like I referenced in my own personal story earlier, when you get to continue playing a game that you really love and care about, it's exciting. And when you see them kind of get that antsy, excited feeling, it's fun. You know, it's fun to watch them feel like, oh, I really got here. I made it. I'm playing college basketball. You know, it's exciting to be able to be a part of that journey for them. It's exciting to see them turn that page into a new chapter. They're growing and developing, and it's fun. I don't know how else to describe it. I think this whole thing should be fun, and amidst the competition, those are the moments that fans don't see, win-loss columns don't see. Those are the moments where you get to see these girls just in their like childlike form of like, oh yeah, I get to play college basketball. This is what I've been wanting. So for me, it's a privilege to watch.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing them achieve those career highs like the first basket or their 1,000 career points?
Yeah, same answer. You know, I mean, I said this before when I talked about the team and what we're developing. It's about them. It's about watching them strive for excellence and achieve things that maybe they once dreamed of, but didn't really know if it was possible. You know, you coach them on the good days, the bad days, and everything in between. So to see them have those high moments that they can really truly be proud of, it's just a fun privilege. I don't even know a better phrase for it. I know I've used that a couple times, but to me it is. It's just like it's like watching my little sister or my niece or something like that, like accomplish something, and you want to be excited for them and share that joy with them and their families, because it's hard to be a student athlete. It's hard to be a college athlete. In basketball in particular, it's a really long year and a long season, and it's hard, and there's a lot more hard than there is fun and easy in this process. So when you see them have those fun, joyful moments of accomplishment and achievement, it is just like, when they study and get an A+ on that test, those are my A+ moments as a coach. Like, oh man, they got to achieve something that they wrote down in my office to start the year. They wanted to accomplish this, this, this. And so it's a fun moment to share with them.
As a coach, what is it like seeing them go on after their senior year and playing in the WNBA or professionally or even getting into coaching?
Yeah, I think again, like watching them continue their career in this game, on whatever scope that might be, coaching, playing overseas, WNBA, whatever. I think just watching them be so in love with the game and the opportunities it creates for them is just, again, it's, as a coach, you're just like, you want to watch them grow and be successful and do something that they really truly feel empowered in and can be in love with. And so for me, it's like, oh man, I just want them to be happy and successful when they walk out my doors and feel courageous and empowered to take the next step into whatever that next chapter holds for them. But to know that it's something within my field of basketball coaching leadership, it makes me feel honestly proud that maybe I influenced and impacted some piece of that journey that made them want to still stick with this and be a part of this game.
What are some of your future plans for Oklahoma Wesleyan?
I want to see us improve every year. I want to become a top contender in the conference and continue to build a culture here that breeds excellence. And when people look out, they're like, oh man, have you seen women's basketball? They're playing hard, but they're always like big energy. They're serving our community. They just seem like a group that loves each other. They hold each other accountable. I want to see our core values be reflected outside these walls, and I want it to show up on the court, off the court. And obviously, I think when you do all those things the right way and really come together as one, I think you do see it in the win-loss column. I think success becomes inevitable when you lay the right kind of groundwork and pour in the right ways. So just seeing us grow and continue to move forward, I think, are the kind of the immediate goals and thought process.
As a head coach, what would you tell your younger self looking back on your career so far?
I think I would tell my younger self, don't be afraid of opportunity, and speak up, because that's your job as an assistant. Give ideas, speak up. If the head coach takes them, they take them. If they don't, they don't. And I think it took me a long time as an assistant to realize that and find that sense of courage within myself and belief in myself that, like, oh no, I do know what I'm doing. I know this game. I've been around it long enough. But I was a people pleaser early on, and as an assistant, that can be really great in some ways, and sometimes it kept me a little quiet. But I think just to be a little bit more courageous in everything we do, and everything I did. I think I would like to go back and tell my younger assistant and GA self, like, hey, just say it, just go do it, just be courageous, step out, go for that job, look for that. Yeah.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate basketball?
Be in shape, go hard, and just because your game minutes don't reflect what they were in high school, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. And your identity is not wrapped up in this orange ball and your stats. I think for freshmen, it is often a hard battle, and it was one that I really struggled with, to maintain that courage and that confidence as they play, when they went from being the best player on the floor to 2 minutes a game, maybe not even seeing the floor, but still being a really valued member of the program that they're in and the team that they're a part of. Every role serves a massive, massive value within the construct of a team, and trying to help them learn and understand that is tough at times, because we're not raised in a culture all the time that values adding value in whatever that looks like. We're very statistical, analytical, what's the black and white, how am I being measured here? We're in a measurement society. And so especially when they're on all the social media that they're on, that we are all on. It can be tough to be caught up in a comparison game, but I would just tell them, put it away and let's find the best version of you that we can keep growing and building and developing every day. And if you're doing that, the tangible results are going to unfold.
What advice would you give those future college basketball players looking to play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited, the WNBA, or overseas?
Same thing. I think developing the whole person of you and your game is important. What's the next iteration? What is, I think about this all the time. Like, okay, like what's Heidi Messer 2.0 look like? Am I going to be the same in 6 months as I am right now? I think players got to always look at that. And sometimes even in smaller chunks, like, okay, on August 10th, what am I doing? But on September 10th, when my team is here, how am I leading them better than I was last September 10th? Or how I am, when they arrive on campus? I think there's always room for growth and development. And for players who really want to go and level up, continue on in the career, either playing or coaching, you have to be aware of yourself and how you are growing you as a person and your game and going after those next goals. Everything in this world requires work. There's actually no easy button for any of us. And as much as we might love it, it's probably for our best that we don't have an easy button. We wouldn't learn a whole lot in the process. So just to stick it out and really be workers and growers of your craft. I think if anything you want to be good at, you have to embrace it as a craft and a skill and a passion. And when you do that, growth is inevitable.
What advice would you give those college basketball players looking to get into coaching just like you have?
Don't be afraid of the dirty work, because this career is going to move you around. It's going to have you doing laundry. It's going to have you sweeping a floor. It's going to have you doing a lot of things on the initial end that aren't glamorous. I think it's easy to look at coaching, and whether it's people watching AAU coaches travel around in the summer and have their teams, or college coaches on TV, or assistant coaches on TV or Twitter, it's easy to have it look really glamorous, but there's a lot of gritty work that goes into it. And, for me, it's like, I love it. And it's a calling for me to be able to be in this position. But there's a lot of dirty work, quote unquote, dirty work that you got to do, particularly to climb the ranks and move up levels, move from GA to assistant, third assistant, second assistant, first assistant, associate head. To whom much is given, much is expected. And, that was one of the first pieces of advice I was given by actually a CEO friend of mine before I became a GA, right as I was getting ready to leave town to go take my GA position. A CEO and a couple other friends from their company that I had known and worked with, they gave me a going away gift. And he said those very words, hey, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that really stuck with me and probably became, honestly, one of the most influential pieces of advice that I put in my pocket, and was like, yeah, with every opportunity I get, I don't want to squander it. I want to be the best GA, the best assistant, the hardest working head coach in the building, like whatever it might be. And I would tell young coaches the same thing. Might not be glamorous, but you're given an opportunity. And if you want to rise up, maximize every detail of it as much as you can, and good things will come.
What advice would you give those head coaches out there that are looking to build their own legacy and building their own career?
I mean, I'm just going into year 2 of being a head coach, but I think it's important for all of us to be true to who we are, be true to ourselves and our own coaching style, our own personalities, and be true to the players that we bring into into our programs, and remember that we're in a service to them. And ultimately, we've got an amazing opportunity to impact and influence young lives. And when you do that, to me, I think legacy becomes something really bigger than me or bigger than any other head coach. But, I think if you look at legacy in terms of win-loss records, call Gino for that. Call Kim, call Dawn, check with them, because I'm not on their level yet. But I think when it comes to being in a people industry like coaching, be true to who you are and serve and love and lead well the girls that we get to influence and have within our program. I think that's the way you really influence and kind of build a legacy that way.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Oklahoma Wesleyan's women's basketball program at?
Yeah, I'm on social media on Twitter and Instagram at hmesser1323. And then on for our basketball team, Oakwoo_WBB. Also on Twitter and Instagram.
Thank you again, Coach Heidi Messer, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Oklahoma Wesleyan as the head women's basketball coach.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate the talk.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Heidi Messer, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.